We're here with Mark Hitchcock. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes out to talk to us about what is a very popular topic right now, prophecy, especially with what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine. And so I kind of want to start there because you talked a lot about Russia, and we hear that we're supposed to be reading in our Bibles, Ezekiel 36, 37, 38. And I want to ask you, a lot of people are saying, but I think, you know, as Christians, we get overexcited. We actually want the rapture to happen like yesterday. And so we're like, we're ready now. Let this be it. Is this it? Does the Russia-Ukraine crisis really tell us that we're any closer to the rapture? How significant is it? Or is it just one in another of many birth pains that we're supposed to be looking out for?
Well, the Bible, I think, says Jesus can come at any moment. So we're to be ready all the time. I think we get up every day and say, perhaps today, this is the day Jesus can come back. But there are signs that are really the build up to what's going to happen in the end times. So these kind of things happening, I think, really should help us to understand that the rapture is closer than it's ever been. Now, obviously, every day the rapture is nearer than it's ever been because another day's gone by. But the stage is being set. I mean, Israel's in place. These things that are happening there in Russia, the globalism we see, all these things I think really are real signs that the rapture could be very soon. I mean, we know it can happen at any moment, but I think these are really important signs that the rapture could be really upon us.
Some people are saying, maybe some people hoping, that what's going on right now with Russia and the Ukraine are maybe a prequel, the beginning steps leading in to World War III. I heard someone say on a radio commentary that as Christians, yes, we're going to escape the wrath that's to come. We're not going to be here for the tribulation, but that we might be here for what is World War III. That kind of surprised me because I've never thought about that. I thought, well, anything big and ugly that's going to happen, we're going to be gone. But not necessarily true?
No, that's right. That's not necessarily true. We could see World War III. We could see nuclear war. The Bible, doesn't tell us we're going to be exempt from those things. What we're going to be exempt from is the wrath of God during the tribulation period. So we don't know. Those things could happen before the rapture. They could happen after the rapture. I mean, I think he's right about that.
You made a really awesome and very touching, personal and intimate point there at the end to help keep us as believers hopeful. We see what's happening and maybe to an extent we start to freak out a little and think the sky is falling, what's going on, but we know better. We know what we're supposed to be focused on and what we're supposed to be keeping our eyes on. What would you say to the church that maybe is losing hope and seeing these things happening and just kind of wondering, okay, God, you're still in control, but where are you? How do we keep that hope alive when we see all the terrible things that are happening? Well,
I just think, we read the Bible, we get with God's people, we do all the things God tells us to do that I think fill us with hope and really fuel our spiritual lives. A lot of people really aren't living very close to the Lord. When these things happen, then they freak out and get really scared. But I think just by living close to God and knowing who He is, we read the Bible, we see God, His sovereignty, His power, His might. God is omnipotent. I just think knowing who God is and knowing what He's like, and then knowing just at least some of the things He's predicted for the future, give us confidence and give us hope that God's in control of what's happening geopolitically and in the whole world, but He's also in control of what's happening in my life individually. And I think we need that hope too.
David Guzik spoke about the fact that we really need to be living with a real, alive, on fire expectancy right now. So many in the church maybe are getting disheartened. David also talked about the great falling away, and we're seeing more and more people who we thought to be Christian, writing Christian books, singing Christian songs, who are walking away from the faith. What is the biggest enemy, do you think, to the church right now as far as not living with the expected hope that we're supposed to be? What is feeding into that, into stealing our hope? What do you think is what is the enemy doing right now to kind of steal that hope from the church as a whole? Yes,
well, what I see in a lot of churches today, I would describe them as woke and weak. They're just woke. They're talking about all kinds of things, but they're not focused on the Word of God. They're not focused on God's power. They're not focused on the gospel. And they're weak, and the people that go there, the sheep that go there, are weak as well. They've lost their fire. They've lost their excitement. They've lost their expectancy. I think that's the greatest danger that we have today. It's the condition of churches, because as churches go, really, so go the Christians who go to those churches.
Lastly, I just want you to close. You illustrated for us a really awesome point about we know how the game ends. We know what the score is from the end. Can you just kind of reiterate a little bit about that, about what you just shared out there from the podium?
Sure, yeah, my family, we went to the 2011 Fiesta Bowl, and we watched the Fiesta Bowl unfold, and it was a really exciting ending, and you know, me and one of my sons were kind of being negative throughout the game and kind of, you know, didn't think it was going to end up very well, but Oklahoma State, the team we went to watch, ended up winning the game. Well, that night we go back, right after the game's over, we're in this house we've rented having dinner, and we turned the game on TV, and we turned the television on ESPN, and the game that we've just watched is on. And when we're watching it, we're totally relaxed, we're at peace, we're laughing, you know, we're having a big time watching because we know how the game ends. And I think that's the way we are as Christians. We don't know everything. God hasn't told us everything about the future. And really, it's good that He hasn't. God spared us from that. But God's told us a lot of what He wants us to know. And we can know how it all ends. And so God's done that, I think, so we can have peace and have perspective. So when we watched that rerun of the game, we had peace. We had perspective because we knew how it was going to ultimately end. And that's what we need to have as believers and what we can have.
Mark Hitchcock, for people who want to read more or hear from you more, where can they go to listen to you more?
Well, the church, I pastor a church, it's called Faith Bible Church in Edmond, Oklahoma. So I can go to the website at Faith Bible Church in Edmond, Oklahoma. I have a website, marklhitchcock.com. And also I do videos and do some writing at endtimes.com, which is a really good website. Greg Laurie's on there as well, and some other folks. So anyway, those are a few platforms or venues where people can find us.
Thank you so much, Mark Hitchcock, for visiting with us, and I just feel like you ignited hope and peace, and woo!
Good.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. God bless you.
Thank you.